Okay, I want to spend some time today looking at my Mac exhaust. Right now, it's just a downpipe with no muffler. And what was included with the exhaust was this basically, I'm going to be honest, it's basically a garbage muffler. I don't like it. And the problem with it is, if it were mounted, I got nowhere to put the actual mount that they included. What they included was this little bracket that's all kind of crappy that mounts up to where the original frame was. So this is no good. Now, I know a few of you have said, man, this sounds awesome, but I'm going to be honest, it has, with just the downpipe and just this exit right here, it has no back pressure, and it's really loud, and while I like having a loud bike, I don't want to be the loudest bike in the neighborhood, and I want to be a little bit more tasteful than that. So, what I did was, I found this nice little straight pipe, stainless steel, I guess it's a straight through, stainless steel muffler from Lossa Engineering. It's really pretty. Probably made in-house. And you know, that could fit over here and look really nice, right? But I don't want to stop there. From Summit Racing and Equipment, I picked up this quarter bend 2-inch pipe. What I'm thinking is, with a little work, we have a little something like that going on. So, something along these lines. I think what I'm going to do is bring this down here and then weld this on and have a nice complete set. So, again, beautiful stainless steel piece from Lossa. Really nice. Comes in a lot of different sizes. This is the 2-inch. It's about 1 foot long. It's a straight through with a baffle. So, with a lined baffle. I don't know if you can see that or not. Really nice piece. This is your standard steel pipe from Summit. I think it was like 10 bucks. What I'll do is cut it down here, weld it on here. But first, as I had mentioned, with this factory Crapo muffler, it has a mount here, which is the mount for this exhaust. Right now the exhaust is just hanging on the flanges. That's no good, especially as I add a muffler in this bend on the back here. So the first thing I need to do is create a mount to mount the exhaust underneath the body here. So I'm going to start with that. Then we're going to figure out this bend, make it look good, put it all back together, pop this guy on the end. I think when it's all wrapped up, it's going to look really good. It's also going to sound a lot better. So, yeah, let's get started. So what I've done here is picked up some stock steel. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to weld a little bracket right back here. And this bracket will have a basic hole to bolt it to the same area where the battery box is bolted. So there'll be a nice little bracket here. I think that'll be enough to keep the exhaust steady and also support the Lossa muffler and the angle. You know, none of this is very heavy, so you know, really what we're looking to do here is just keep it stable and just stabilize a little bit of weight hanging out back here. Okay, so unless you're already interested in seeing me bend a bracket and drill a hole in it, I've already done it at this point. So now what I'm doing is preparing the surface of the side of the exhaust so that I can weld the bracket in place to the exhaust. So what I'm doing here is basically using a Dremel with a small stone grinder to break the paint off of the surface of the exhaust, and then I'm going to use this nifty little zip tie to fix the bracket in place so that it makes it easy to weld. You might be asking, why are you welding it while it's on the bike? Well, this ensures perfect fitment. And what I'm doing at this point is doing a little bit of welding. You might call it a quick tack, just to make sure that when I take the exhaust off, the bracket is in place. So at this point, what I'm doing here is test fitting the angle pipe and ensuring that I have all of my angles lined up while the exhaust is still on the bike, so that when I take the exhaust off to do some final welding, everything lines up perfectly. Because what I don't want to have happen is to weld the angle pipe on and have it be crooked, because that would be pretty terrible and would be not ideal. So nowhere in the Mac instructions does it say that you can remove the Mac exhaust in one piece, but actually it turns out you can. So that's what I'm doing here, is removing it all in one piece. It takes a little bit of finesse, but it comes right off. So at this point, what I need to do is mark on the end of that angle pipe just how far down I need to go to still allow for just enough space for the Lossa muffler to fit. So I'm doing some measurements here just to make sure that I've got enough distance, and what turns out is that the width of the inlet of the exhaust muffler is the same width as masking tape. So I use that as sort of a reference point to give you an idea of exactly where the muffler is going to fit. And what I'm marking here is where I'm going to cut, and a reminder little X with the Sharpie to let me know that that's the piece that I'm going to be cutting off, as if it wasn't so obvious. So now I've got it back together after cutting the end off the angle pipe, and what I'm doing here is making sure that everything fits together perfectly. Had to fight the muffler just a little bit to get it on, but that's probably normal. And it looks like everything fits as it should, so I'm pretty happy about that. My marks still line up on the exhaust, so now I'm going to pop off this muffler, and I'm going to go ahead and move forward with welding the angle onto the back of the exhaust. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I've got to again prep the surface of the exhaust because there's paint on there and the welder will not like that at all. Welding's pretty straightforward. You just weld metal to metal, they're both steel. Now I'll be the first to admit that I'm no master welder, and as a result I make mistakes in my welding. So what I'm doing here is just grinding off some of the edges of the welds to make a little bit of a smoother transition from the exhaust to the bend. So one final piece from this little bracket here to hold the exhaust is that I needed this little bridge just to make sure that it's absolutely solid. So what I'm doing here is welding a small bridge in place to just add a little integrity to the structure of that bracket. Okay, so what I managed to do here was mistakenly weld the bracket piece right to the needle nose pliers. Novice mistake, and looks like it's going to be a do-over. Alright, definitely got it that time. Okay, the last step for this downpipe and exhaust is to give it a few coats of high temperature paint. A popular option that a lot of people go with is the old barbecue paint look, which I'm going to go with for now. I do plan on wrapping this in the future, but as for right now, I just want to get the exhaust on, get it baked, and actually go for a ride. So even with the new bracket attached and the bend attached, reinstallation was just about the same as it was taking it back off, which is comforting considering I've added, another foot of length to the end of the pipe. But everything went back together perfectly, and I'm happy to say that this new bracket that I welded on is definitely doing its job. The exhaust is much sturdier than it was before. So the last and final step of the exhaust as you can see, is to install the Lossa muffler. For some reason, you can see in my hand there that I had an exhaust clamp in my hand, and I completely failed to reinstall it while putting the muffler on. Oh wait, yeah, I realized it just then. Yeah, another do-over. Good job. So taking that back off, going to go ahead and move forward with putting the clamp on, and we're going to do it the right way. The clamp also came from Lossa, another high quality part from Lossa Engineering. I am not sponsored by them. I'm not plugging them for any sort of financial reward, but this is a pretty sweet muffler. So I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. And one person asked, how much does the bike move when you sit on it? So here I am sitting on the bike to show you that there is some movement in the suspension, but it's not too rigid and definitely not too soft. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.